With all the Damian Lillard offseason drama, the blockbuster Bradley Beal trade, and James Harden's long holdout, the NBA season is finally starting this week. And with it, we will get to see new super teams, the return of injured players, and more. Welcome to Penn State Sports Night. I'm Michael Landis, joined alongside Nolan Collery and Kenny Ojeikere, and we are here to deliver our takes on who we see as top contenders in each conference and what teams may shock some people this season. While the Nuggets will look to reclaim their title as NBA champions for a second straight year, there are many new and improved teams who are hungry to take the trophy from them. So, gentlemen, there are a lot of teams this year that have some high aspirations that are looking to obviously make this huge jump. Nolan, I'm going to swing it over to you first. In the Eastern Conference, who do you see coming out of there?
So I'll answer your question with a question. What happens when you give the best player in the NBA the best teammate he's ever had? Freak time. Name still in the works. The Bucks are absolutely the team to beat in the East. Giannis has been the best player in the NBA for quite a few years now, and I don't see it changing anytime soon. And you're giving him his best teammate ever, Damian Lillard. And now Damian Lillard is getting his best teammate ever in Giannis Antetokounmpo. You could even argue that Chris Middleton is Damian Lillard's best teammate ever, if not for Giannis. Now, the offense will take a little time to settle. Dame hasn't played great in the preseason. Under 13 points a game on under 20% shooting from three. There's no way of getting around that. That's rough. But I do believe in this team to find its stride. They have proven that they have a championship quality core, and I'm so excited to watch the pick play from Damian Lillard. You want to run a pick and roll, you've got Giannis crashing to the basket. You want to run a pick and pop, Splash Mountain, Brook Lopez is going to be the choice. I just don't see how any team is going to beat this team in the East this year.
You were saying you don't know how any team is going to beat them
There
when they have the Boston Celtics.
All right.
Outside of the Celtics, there are no contenders.
Yeah.
The East is so shallow, it's insane. Boston, they were able to add Kristaps Porzingis. He's coming off of 23 a game, which is a career high, as well as they added Jrue Holiday. Jrue Holiday got an All-Star last year. He's a great perimeter defender, so that's an upgrade for Marcus Smart, I feel like. They lost Grant Williams, and they were able to bring in Brissett from Indiana. They brought in Lamar Stevens. On top of that, and Tatum, he's coming off a back-to-back All-NBA first team. Jaylen Brown, he just averaged 26 and 7, and he's a premier defender. He can score. This is one of the best duos in the league, I feel like. And Tatum, he's going to be in the MVP conversation again. Of course, outside of that, I feel like they can really compete with the Bucks because they're an extremely deep team. I think Mazzulla got his feet under him in the playoffs last year. It was kind of weird because he wasn't able to succeed in the playoffs. They were second or first seed, but they couldn't get over the hump with the Heat.
Yeah.
And this team is just insanely deep as well. They have a lineup of death. That lineup is going to have you wanting to cry to your mother. We talk Jrue Holiday, we talk Derek White, we talk Jaylen Brown, we talk Jason Tatum, we talk Kristaps Porzingis. That has to be the best defensive unit in the league.
It's me.
By far.
Absolutely. And, well, this is why I love that you both said it, because these are the top two teams in the East, and they could easily both be playing each other in the Eastern Conference Finals. Nolan, I love what you were saying about how well Dame will complement Giannis. I mean, we saw what they did last year. Honestly, I thought that the Bucks were going to go far last year, and, Giannis's injury was part of that in the playoffs, maybe why they lost. But the Celtics were also kind of disappointing. I know they came back on the Heat in the Eastern Conference Finals, but they didn't reach it again. And, there are some disappointments there, but both teams made great improvements. Obviously, the Dame was the biggest one for the Bucks. But for the Celtics, they add depth, which is the biggest thing. I think we love the Porzingis trade for them because they never really had that power forward, young kind of guy that could get buckets from. Al Horford is obviously solid, but he never really did it for him.
Ancient.
Exactly. So I definitely agree with that. But I want to move it over to the West now. I want to hear your guys' opinions. Who's going to be that team that is going to face one of these guys in the finals? Kenny, I'm going to swing it back to you.
Well, unlike the East, the Western Conference is as deep as ever. I think there are 5 to 6 people that can contend for a championship, that can finish first seed. So I got to talk about the Lake Show. You have LeBron, who obviously has not slowed down. He had a foot injury last season that he was dealing with, so now he's going to be fully fresh. Anthony Davis, I think he's going to have a huge year, as long as he stays healthy. Of course, we've been saying that for a long time, but AD, I think he's going to be a defensive player of the year this season, like a lock. And then on top of that, I even think that he could be a dark horse MVP.
Ooh.
So I'm going to throw that out there.
Hot take.
So this is a deep team. We saw them struggle in the first stretch of the season last year, but what did they do? Pelinka loaded up at the deadline, and then they finished seventh in the conference, and they made it all the way to the Western Conference Finals. They lost to the eventual NBA champions, the Denver Nuggets, and they even took down the defending champions in the Warriors. So they had additions like Torian Prince, who you see up there. They added, they were able to add Gabe Vincent. They were able to add They were able to add Christian Wood. They were able to add Jackson Hayes on top of that. And Darvin Ham, he's going to really be able to experiment. He can go tall, whether he wants to have AD at the 4 at his natural position and have another guy at the 5, or he can go small ball. He can run LeBron at the 5. He can run Rui at the 5. So this is a really deep team, and I'm also really looking out for Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is a super efficient player. He's going into his 3rd year. I think this team has the hallmarks to be amazing. They have the same kind of build to the Denver Nuggets, where you have your 2 stars, your 2 great players that are just going to say, hey, let me take over this game. And you also have your role guys. You have your 3-and-D guys. I think the Lakers take it all.
I'm just saying, let's not overthink this. We just saw a team win the finals. We saw a team look great all playoffs, so why not do it again? The Denver Nuggets have built a perfect team around Nikola Jokic. Every single cog in this machine turns effortlessly with one another. One of the most important things about that is their contract management in the front office. They did lose one key contributor, Bruce Brown, to the Pacers, but the ability to retain great players on cheap contracts is incredible. Like you mentioned, Jokic and Jamal Murray, they're going to be the 2 stars of the show. But you have options on wings. You have Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. You have one of the most underrated defenders in the NBA and Aaron Gordon, who are on very, very reasonable contracts that they're going to be able to re-sign at reasonable rates. Now, the loss of Bruce Brown will be big because he kind of played that big body guard role. And I hate to say it to sound like a homer pick, but I really do think Jalen Pickett, Penn State legend, could fill that role. He likes to play some big guard, and obviously the shooting isn't quite there. Well, Christian Braun is right there. He is ready for a big season. I think that this Denver team won't have that much trouble in the West. This is still the team you got to be afraid of.
Yeah, Nolan, I think that's absolutely true. And right now they are the team to beat. Like you're saying, they're trying to go back-to-back with it. The pieces are still there. The depth is still there. Last season we saw it. It was the Murray show or it was the Jokic show in the playoffs. Either of them could turn it on, and the rest of the team was supportive. We saw Porter Jr. get into it some games where he could just splash some threes. This team can be elite. Once again, they barely lost anything, and the chemistry is all there. And on the other side, Kenny for the Lakers, I'm loving it. I loved everything they did this offseason. I'm loving the hype, and I know a lot of people don't really like it as much, but the difference is having AD being able to play, like you were saying, the natural position. Darvin Ham talked about how he wanted him to get 6 threes a game, which I think is definitely possible. He can shoot that well. And look, if they're able to do that and spread the ball and get those younger guys in more minutes, give LeBron a little bit more rest, look, they can do it either way, that run. Now, guys, finally, the one last question I want to ask is who a surprise team for you is this season? Who is going to be that team that is going to shock some people and maybe make some noise in the playoffs this year? Nolan, I'll throw it back to you.
Well, Kenny mentioned it earlier. The East is super top heavy right now. There are 2 teams that are really contending. So I'm not looking for a team in the East that's going to go all the way, but I'm looking for a team that might make a bit of a splash. Why not Indiana? The Pacers have been a bit of a boring organization for quite a few years. The last great player they've had was Victor Oladipo, who had a legendary duel against LeBron in the playoffs a couple short years ago. But Tyrese Halliburton is the truth. I'm telling you right now, Tyrese Halliburton is the most underappreciated player in the entire NBA going into this season. You are looking at a guaranteed All-NBA player this season. I can't tell you if it's going to be first, second, third team, but I can guarantee he will be on there. Benedict Mathurin, very solid second option offensively. He's got to get some of those efficiencies up. But I want to talk about the 6th man on this team, Buddy Hield. You wouldn't believe this. He has the most 3-pointers made in the 2020s, 200 more than Steph Curry. This Pacers team is going to be fun. They're going to be throwing lobs to Obi Toppin and Myles Garrett. I see no reason why this team can't be a sneaky 4 or 5 seed in the East.
Well, I'm going to throw it over to the West. Like I said, we know the West is deep as ever, but the special thing about the West is I think that there's maybe only 2 teams that I'm going to rule out of competing. From top to bottom, the Western Conference is deep, I'd say. So I'm going to talk about the Houston Rockets. Who'd they bring in? They brought in Ime Udoka. The Celtics have, since 2008, they've won the NBA championship 1 time, but we know the Celtics to reach the playoffs and go deep every single year. And who did they reach the finals under? They reached it under Ime Udoka for the first time in 15 years. The Rockets, they were able to mix in a lot of young guys with older guys now. Last year, they had a terrible culture to them. They didn't really have a great system under Steve Silas, but you bring in Ime Udoka, who's going to bring in a better defense overall, I feel like, and a better system that is going to allow players to flourish. And Jalen Green, I think he's going to flourish under Ime Udoka. I think he's going to go from around 22 a game to 25 a game. And then, again, mixing in these young guys with these old guys, they had no veterans in the locker room before, but now they add Dylan Brooks, who's going to be insane for the culture. They add Fred VanVleet. They add Jeff Green, who's a champion just last year. And then you get Oladipo, you get Reggie Bullock. And then on top of that, I think the young guys like Cam Whitmore, I think he's going to be the steal of the draft.
He was, yeah.
Alperen Şengün, he's a baby Jokic in a sense. And then now under Udoka, I think he's going to be able to play better defense. So overall, the young talent is going to develop massively, and they're going to be insane. I think that the Rockets can touch the play-in.
Yeah, Kenny, I love what they did. Honestly, what you were saying, combining the young and the old. And, Dylan Brooks is one of my favorites because everybody hates him for the reason, that he's all, crazy. They say he talks too much trash. But that's one of the things that a team needs. And you combine that with the young, you draft Amon Thompson, you get Fred VanVleet, a shooter. The toughness and the confidence in a locker room like that can help build a team completely. And, Nolan, I absolutely love what you said about the Pacers. Halliburton could easily be a second team or third team All-NBA this season. You put that together with Buddy Hield, I see it. I see a 5-4 seed, kind of like the Knicks last season. With the NBA season finally upon us, we will get to see which teams will live up to the offseason hype in making a little title run in which teams will fail to reach their potential. That's going to do it for this edition of Penn State Sports Night. For Nolan Collery and Kenny Ojeikere, I'm Michael Landis. Thank you, and have a great night, everyone.
Hey everybody, thanks for tuning into this edition of Penn State Sports Night.
For more content like this, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, give us a like, and follow our socials down below.
And as always, we are
Penn State Sports Night.